Welcome to the third instalment of our investigation into the murder of Professor Archibald Barkington in the village of Upper Slugpitt. Now, today our chief forensic scientist, Dr. Gordon Moonstone, will be looking at the evidence that was collected at the scene of the crime and telling us what he's going to do with it in order to provide us with further clues as to the identity of the murderer.
I've got the Professor's coat in a bag here for you.
Thank you, James. Put it over there, will you?
Righto, Professor.
Thank you.
Well, what I'd like to do today is to go through some of the evidence that was collected at the scene of the crime and try to explain how we are going to use that to find further information that may lead us to the identity of the murderer of Professor Barkington. Now, so far we've been able to establish the following series of events leading up to the death of Professor Barkington. He was attacked by his assailant, and following an altercation he was hit on the head by a blunt instrument that we are trying to identify. This rendered him unconscious, leading to him collapsing to the floor, striking his head, causing the cut which left the blood around the body at the scene of the crime. By looking at the wound on the Professor's head, we were able to establish that he was hit by some sort of wooden implement, as there were a few splinters in the wound, and the shape of the wound suggests that this would either be a heavy branch from a tree, or a log, or a fence post, something of that type. Now, another piece of evidence that we're going to be looking at are the fibres that we might collect from the Professor's clothing. Now, his lab coat was brought in earlier. Down here, and you can see it's bagged up at the moment. What we need to do is to brush this down and collect any fibres that we might find on there. First of all, obviously we have to discount any that belong to the Professor's own clothing, and then we can look to see if any match any of the suspect's clothing. So as well as looking at the fibres that we might find on the Professor's clothing, we will also look at the suspect's clothing to see if there is any plant material on them. The reason for this is it appears that the intruder broke through a hedge in order to attack the Professor, and there may be some lingering fragments of plants on there that would incriminate them, and we will obviously be interested to see if we can find anything. Now, close to where we found the break in the hedge is one of the Professor's trial fields, and in there we found some muddy footprints. Now, unfortunately, due to the weather conditions, they are not clear enough to identify the shoe that's made them. However, it is likely that some of the mud from that field has stuck into the shoe of the person that was there. Therefore, we are going to collect some soil from the shoes of our suspects and see if any of them contain the elements that were being used to treat the plants in that field. Now, the scenes of crime officers discovered a blackmail note that had been ripped up and put into the bin in the Professor's kitchen. Now, the note itself has some ink at the bottom, which we may be able to identify using chromatography, and although we found no fingerprints on the letter, the envelope in which the letter was presumably sent has a partial fingerprint on the back, which we may be able to use to help uncover who wrote the letter. Now, the final bit of evidence that we can get from the blackmail note here is from the handwriting at the bottom. Now, although he or she has probably tried to disguise their handwriting here, it may be possible from the shaping of some of the letters to get an idea of which of the suspects is most likely to have written this.
In future instalments, Dr. Moonstone will show us how he's going to analyse these bits of evidence and provide us with clues to the identity of the murderer. Until next time, take care of yourselves.